Make sure that my little cord reaches as far as it can. I'm going to pull that a little closer. Can you pull that to me, towards me just a little bit? There you go. That's perfect.
Seems so simple.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. I am Tara Parks from T Parks Consulting, and I just want to send a quick shout out to Tara and the Mosinee Chamber for bringing me in to talk to you all today. So really excited about being here. Feel free to ask any questions. I know you get your mouth full and whatever, but it's all right. We'll handle that. So we're going to talk a little bit about employee retention and employee experiences and marketing to those pieces. There's a lot of different pieces of this puzzle. So hopefully I broke this down in a way that's going to be very easy for you to take back and implement some really good stuff that you learned today. So to get started, I'm going to share a little bit about myself. I'm going to do a breakdown of our care framework, and then a little bit of a breakdown of the communication as well. And then I'm going to give you 8 steps that you can use to implement the care framework at your location. And then we'll have some final tips, takeaways, and a little bit of Q&A at the end. So hopefully we'll fill the time allotted. And Tara, can you remind me what time we go to again?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, okay. One of the things said 1:30, so I just wanted to make sure that I don't go over.
Yeah,
so
11:30 to 1.
Okay, perfect. So first off, who am I? I am Tara Parks from Central Wisconsin. I've lived in Wisconsin most of my life. I've worked in industries like marketing, sales, B2B sales, B2C sales, customer service and retention, and I can tell you one thing, I am definitely an expert in customer and employee retention. I've got my MBA from Cardinal Stritch, and then I also have got a master's in internet marketing. So I understand that digital space as well as the practical things within a business that need to work to make sense so that they all work together. I love retail things. I love, being able to have good experiences. I've worked for companies where I've loved the company but had a really toxic experience with the management, and I've also worked in companies where I hated the company, what they stood for, but I had an amazing manager, so I stuck around for 5 years because I really loved who I worked for. So in this day and age, people don't stay or leave because of how much they're getting paid or the benefits. Very rarely anyways. Typically it's because of who they work with or who they work for. That's the primary reason that people change jobs these days. So your job obviously is to help try to find ways to bridge that gap so that you've got more people staying on board, right? And the right people, not just anybody. And finding the right people sometimes involves a bigger culture shift than what people at a middle management level can institute in your business. So sometimes it includes corporate management that needs to be able to, that leadership from that top-down strategy to be able to implement and really give the resources that are needed to be able to implement some of those things on a daily basis. So in front of you, I've got the PowerPoint and all my slides. Feel free to take notes. There will be a lot of extra things that I add in that aren't necessarily on the sheet. And then I also have a true-false sheet. One side says false, one side says true. And I think 2 of you have little flip boards because I ran out of the true-false stapled ones. So we're going to do a quick little exercise. If it switches. Okay. So what exactly is marketing, right? Like the top one here, is it about reaching the top? I want you guys to give me true or false. Is it about just doing the best and reaching to the heights? Is it about that? Raise your sign and let me know if it's true or false, if you think it's true or false. Okay, most of you said false, all right? Is it about charts and identifying What are the pieces of the puzzle that are happening, and like analyzing information. True, false? What do you guys think? Looks like mostly true on that one. Okay. I'm gonna actually make a note. It'll be easier. How about the next one over in the corner, in the far right corner there? Is that about marketing? Is that like just connecting the dots, right? You know, kind of tying it all together and making sure that everything works together. Who thinks that's true? Awesome, overwhelming true on that one. How about selling product on this next row here? Is it about selling the product? Okay. And how about guest services? Is it how you relate to the customers that you're working with? Okay. And how about the bottom line? I mean, is marketing about the bottom line? Is that it? Is that what it's all about? It's just the bottom line? Mostly true. Some true, some false on that one. Kind of a mixed batch. How about creating quality products? Does marketing have anything to do with creating the quality product? True. And then what about the sales? Sales themselves. Is marketing about sales? True. And how about the political view? The political aspect of things. Is marketing about politics and about leveraging your position in the market to maybe get more customers or get more sales? True on that one? Good. So any of you who picked false on any of these were a little bit trick questions because they were all true. Marketing is involved in every single aspect of these. In fact, this is just a very limited snapshot of what marketing entails, right? Marketing does not happen in a vacuum. You can have an advertisement, right? An advertisement is just an advertisement. There's no two-way communication. Marketing is about two-way communication. There's got to be a sender of the communication and then the receiver, right? So if you don't have a sender and a receiver, like an advertisement, you can build a billboard. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a receiver, right? It's a message going outward, but there's really no message coming back. Okay? In marketing, there's always got to be a sender and a receiver. It's always two-way communication. And so with that, I lost my train of thought, so I'll just go on to the next slide. That could happen. So being that marketing is so much about communication, I wanted to define, marketing in the scope of communication, or define communication in the scope of marketing, okay? So really, it's about using communication strategies to identify and understand the target audiences, right? Ultimately aiming at driving engagement to create value and achieve organizational goals. You've got 4 basic things, okay? But within those is how do we get people to communicate well enough? How do you communicate the details about your business to a potential employee that's going to get them to stick? How do you communicate to your existing employees that gets them to feel like they're valued in your organization and gets them to want to stay long term? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. Marketing is not linear. All those of you in marketing understand that marketing looks a lot like this big ball of string these days. It's no longer about placing an ad in the local newspaper. Somebody sees the ad and drives down to your business and puts in a paper application, right? Marketing is about, oh, they saw you engage on social media, right? You were in the parade and you were sponsoring an event, a nonprofit organization, and they happen to like that nonprofit organization. So now they're on your radar, or that person, or you're on their radar, and you get this snowball effect. But before they decide to, they may be not even looking for a job right now, but all of a sudden things change, and now they are looking for a job. So they go back and they do some research on your company. They go to your website. They go to your social media page. They check out, what do you know about these people? They may even go and look for your references. Who are your references? The employees that work at your company. They are your direct references. And so they may check with people that work there. Do you like it? What's it like? Right? And whether or not you trust that friend or you trust that colleague, I mean, you take it with a grain of salt sometimes, but it is a very realistic way of how people find information. It's this big ball of mess. So how do you guys know which way that you need to go to like put all these pieces together so that you're not missing anything and that you don't have any gaps in your program? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is a little breakdown of communication and marketing. First part of communication is that content creation, right? Crafting clear and compelling messages, okay, that convey that proposition of your product or service. So how are you conveying that? In the relation to services like employees, how are you conveying the culture of your business to potential employees? Do you have happy pictures of your employees on the website? Do you have testimonials from employees on your website so that people can see that? Do you have video testimonials? Because a videomonial is a great way to convey that excitement that somebody might have about the job that they're at. If you can, I mean, you can read a testimonial, but it's flat. Right? It's very one-dimensional. There's no interest there. When you see the picture of the person and they're talking about how much they love working at this company and how much they love what they do and how excited they are and all the things that make that, you know, a worthwhile experience for them, it's very hard to convey those emotions in a written testimonial, right? And creating a testimonial video isn't hard. I've done many of them with my iPhone. Do a short interview. Hi, what do you like working about here? Or what do you like about working here? You know, what's your favorite thing? And find people that appeal to each audience that you want to target. So for example, if you're targeting, because your audience isn't going to be all the same, right? I mean, you've got experienced people that you're recruiting for and you've got entry-level people that you're recruiting for. You need to fill all the different positions. You've got people that maybe, you know, you're trying to fill basic positions, but that are, how do I put it? Somebody that's a more mature person who is going to be a little bit later in their career, who's just looking, they don't want management. They're not looking to move up the scale. They just want to go in, punch in, do their time, and go home, right? There's people like that. How do you appeal to that person? And video is an excellent way to do that. But when you craft your messages for the video, when you craft your questions for the video, you have to craft them in a way that are going to be consistent with what your culture represents. So craft them in a way so that people are getting the idea that, okay, yes, I worked with a small trucking company in Stevens Point, and one of the people that did the testimonial was a young man who was about 26 years old, and he loved the fact that he could work all the hours that he wanted to, but still felt like he had work-life balance. He liked being known as a name, not just a number, and he liked being able to come and go as he needed. He also liked being able to work at the shop on his projects for free, his weekend things. So that was what was appealing to him. We also had another gentleman who was probably been there for 25 years or so. Loved the fact that every day he went in and every single day was the same for him. He loved knowing exactly what he was going to do every single day. That was what was appealing to him. So when you're crafting your messages, you want to craft them so that they meet multiple different audiences and that the people in your video look like what you're trying to attract. Okay? The third one that we had posted on their internet, on their website, was a gentleman who was the same age as the second gentleman. He loved that it was different. He had a different schedule every single day. He was always meeting different people, going different places for this trucking company, always, doing something different. He loved that part. So is a matter of finding what those pieces are and how you're going to appeal to that demographic. Channel selection. Determine the most effective channels to reach that target. Now, if you're trying to attract a younger demographic, is advertising in the local buyer's guide the best way to reach that demographic? Probably not, right? Is advertising on social media the best way to reach the demographic? If you're advertising on Facebook and you're trying to reach somebody under the age of 35, you're way outdated. Because that's for old people. I'm part of that group. I'm part of that. I'll be 51 at the end of the week, and yes, I am part of that old people that still actually looks at Facebook. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, that's where those things are at. And if you don't have the ability and the skills to incorporate those tools, you have to find somebody on your staff that you can collaborate with that can help you. I am a TikTok idiot, I will admit. TikTok, not a clue. Snapchat's even worse. I can set up TikTok and I can post some tics or talks or whatever you call them. But when it comes to Snapchat, I'm done. I can take the silly picture of the little image thing, and that's as far as I get. I don't get snaps from my kids ever. But it's very important to be able to broadcast in the way and to be able to reach out in the way that you're going in the target that you're trying to reach, okay? And because everything is not linear, right? That's why you have to have it in multiple places. And you want to give that message and share that message in multiple ways. Because you may have a young professional that you're trying to attract that does watch the nightly news, that is up on, who's watching local television. He's not just hanging out on, Instagram all night. He's a motivated professional, or she's a motivated professional. And so you have to be creative and think in all different sorts of ways. So having a team that you can collaborate with to think about all the different ways that all the different audiences and identify the audiences you're trying to reach is really, really important. Because otherwise you're gonna miss the boat. If you don't have a big enough, collaboration group, marketing group, you get too pigeonholed and you get the blinders on and you're like, oh no, it's just like this. These are the only people that we're gonna do, and this is what our market looks like. And realistically, it could be this huge wide open market of all different kinds of people that would be ideal for your situation. You just didn't think of it. And so, the broader the scope that you are casting the net to, the more likely you are to find the right people for your institution and not just the only people, right? Breathing is not a job requirement. Just saying. And I know many companies have already eliminated drug testing, because if they drug tested, then they'd never have any candidates. So the next thing is audience engagement, and that's where my CARE principles really start to hone in on those relationships. Everything is about relationships when it comes to feeling like you're valued and feeling like you're important in the workplace. You want to know that what you do matters. We all go to work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 16 hours a day. And you want to know that the time you're spending away from your family, the time you're spending away from your loved ones is going to be put to good use, that it's not just wasted time, right? So you want to make sure that you're creating audience engagement and that they're using the tools that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes. That's going to foster those relationships and encourage that response. And then feedback and adaptation. It's not a one-time thing to, we're going to do an employee engagement exercise, we're going to do these videos, and then we're going to leave those videos on there for the next 10 years, right? No. You want to get feedback from the existing employees. You want to get feedback from the people that you're hiring. Are you sending the right messages? If you're getting all of a sudden candidates that you didn't expect to get, or you get all the wrong candidates, maybe the messaging is wrong. Maybe the medium that you picked is the wrong medium, and you're attracting people that you didn't really expect to attract, or that you didn't want to attract. Opposite could happen as well. You could identify an area that you're like, oh wow, all of a sudden we're getting this audience and we don't know why. Where are these people coming from? You're happy that they're there, but you don't know how. And so sometimes the marketing that you're doing can have those side effects depending on who you're trying to reach and depending on what you're doing. But the broader that pool is of individuals that is focusing on focusing on identifying the audience, that broader pool, young people, older people, more mature people, inexperienced people, old, very experienced people, like people ready to retire, like get all of that in a collaboration group. When you start looking at feedback and collecting that and analyzing what's going on with your organization.
Get your last bullet, employee, please, just so you know for next time.
Employees, nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't want to call it out.
No, it's all okay. It's all good. There may be some other ones in there too, so you'll have to jot those down for me. In fact, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna circle that. Grammar, spelling, there we go. Good deal. So the CARE framework is a framework that's very simple. CARE framework does not cost anything to implement. You know how a lot of times companies are like, oh, we're getting this new thing and we have to invest in all of this stuff to train people. The CARE framework is really about as simple as you could possibly imagine, because it's not about training tools and computer-based training programs and making sure that everybody's gotten educated on all these different things. It's just about what it says, care. Being kinder, building relationships with people. So the acronym CARE stands for communication, authenticity, relationships, and empathy. 87% of employees out there are looking for a healthy work-life balance. So in today's market, like I said before, they don't quit because of pay, or because of company reputation. They quit because of the people that they work for. And sometimes it doesn't even mean the corporate people that they work for. It could be their immediate boss that they're just not gelling with. I've had that happen myself, and no matter how much I loved the job and loved what I did, my immediate boss was just so not good to be nice. It was really, really impossible for me to stay any longer. 5.5 years was the longest that I could stay. And I couldn't do it anymore. CARE is a framework that allows leaders to really connect with their team on a much deeper level, and create meaningful relationships that are going to help staff feel like their work is valued and help them feel like what they do has meaning and purpose. So communication, first thing. We talked about communication already, but what are the parts of communication that are going to help you build relationships? Well, first off, communication. What I mean by that is communicate with your employees and tell them how the company's doing. Communicate things that are, maybe you don't think they're important, but if you have a production environment where nobody is ever told what the end goal is, and people aren't held to that kind of information, how do they know what they're working towards? They don't, right? At least in customer service, in banking, and in retail sales, things like that, you have a very direct result. You can see the customer service and you can see that interaction immediately. But in a production environment, whether you're at Crystal Finishing, whether you're at Wassa Tile, it's very hard for people in that production field to understand what's happening on the other side. So the more they know, the more they can grow. Okay? The more they know, the more they can grow. And it doesn't mean that they have to be held responsible for that information, but you're just simply communicating what those things are, right? Now, on the flip side of that, the reason you're communicating to them is so that they feel valued as an employee. So that if somebody asks them, what do you like about working here? You get a better response. Instead of like, I wouldn't work here if I were you, right? That's not the response that you want. And if that's the response that your employees are sharing, you've got much bigger problems. You want to be able to communicate. So the other piece of communication is really communicating the culture to your business or to your potential employees and potential future employees, right? So communicating how? Communicate on your website. What is your culture? Do you have a vision and mission statement? What do you stand for? Who do you stand for? Do you have a social responsibility piece that you sponsor? Do you sponsor someone like the women's community? Do you sponsor someone like on a global basis, right? Ronald McDonald House, something like that. Who do you help outside of your own business? What is important to your company? Because if it's important to them, then you may have a better chance of getting that employee. Like, I have two boys that are 27 and 25, almost 26. And the younger one quit a job. He was making more money. He had no time at home at all. None with his wife, none with his loving dogs that he loves. And so he took a pay cut of almost $20,000 a year so that he could spend more time with his wife and his dog and have a schedule that was predictable. When he was driving truck before, he was driving for a company that had very inconsistent start times. He was up at 3 o'clock in the morning getting ready for work, and then didn't get home off until 7 o'clock at night. Well, when you're working at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's about the time you go to bed. So he had no work-life balance. But if you're gonna create a company like that, if that's what your company is, own it. Let people know and be honest up front. His biggest beef with that company was that they didn't tell him it was gonna suck. Honest, those are his words. He's like, if it's gonna suck, then tell me it's gonna suck. Because I wanna know what I'm getting myself into. I wanna go in with my eyes wide open. Don't tell me it's gonna be, oh, you're gonna get done at this time and you're gonna have all this help, and if you ever need, the managers are gonna come help you and blah, blah, blah. Don't say those things if they're not true. If your company is a mess, tell them, it's a mess. Like, we're working through some stuff. Be honest with them, okay? Which leads me into authenticity. They can tell when you're lying. They will know when you're lying, especially if it's about the environment or the job or things like that. Don't lie about the job. Be authentic and be real with them. They will respect you a lot more if you are real and authentic with them than if you try to fluff it all over with extra stuff and try to make it sound like it's not gonna be sucky. If it's gonna suck, just own the suck. And then later on, try to figure out how to make it not suck as much, okay? Authenticity also has to do with better relationships between management and staff, okay? They know when things are going good. They know when things are not going good. But if they know that things are not going good, based on previous years' experience because they've been there for a long time, yet they're being told that things are good, it causes red flags. It causes people to really question, right? How busy are you now compared to how busy you were 30 years ago, and you're doing better now than you were 30 years ago? That might cause some concern for people. And people aren't stupid. Just because it's not their responsibility to know management type information and know all of these elevated types of things doesn't mean that they shouldn't be told what's going on, okay? The more communication you can create with your company, the more people know about what's going on, the more they feel like their work is valued. They understand where they fit in that puzzle, right? In that production line, in the final big picture. This is my portion. This is what I have to own. This is what I'm proud of. This is what I get to do every single day, and I love it. But if you don't tell them how they fit in, this is what I do every day, not really sure, because I don't see the end product and I don't get to see it. I mean, all I do is just this. And especially in larger companies, if you work in a company like, and I'm not even sure about how big crystal finishing is, but I'm thinking about Harley Davidson, right? Up in Tomahawk, where you've got a company where all they do is make this fender. That's their job. All the things up there, they just make one fender. They don't ever get to see the end result of somebody pulling out of the lot and ringing the bell to get their new Harley Davidson, right? They don't ever get the feeling of excitement when that bike is done. They don't get to hear the roar of the engine unless they own one themselves, of course. But if you tell them where they fit in and what those requirements are, like what their production is, how are you fitting into everybody else, how does this all work together, you have a much better cohesive environment that people are going to understand where their part is and where their role lies. Building relationships. It doesn't take a lot to ask someone how they're doing. Nikki, how you doing?
Great.
Good. Now, how are you really doing?
Good.
See, we are so used to just giving that good response, right? That we don't think people actually want to know what the real response is. I had an instance not long ago where I was experiencing some significant depression and anxiety, to the point where I was just hoping one of my managers would just simply ask me how I was doing. And what I was told instead is that if I didn't hit my sales number for the month of January, I should consider taking a leave of absence. Right. I am no longer at that company. That's not the right way to handle things, in case you're wondering. Even in a sales and production-oriented kind of world, that is not okay, ever. And if you don't build that relationship with people, all of it, they're gonna think it's weird, right? They're gonna be like, why are you asking me? Like, all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, you're asking me how I'm doing. Like, what's going on? Is the company closing? No, you have to build those relationships. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen in small steps. So get to know your people. Are they married? What are their values? What do they want to accomplish by being at that company? What do they want to get out of it? Are they there for the money? What are their retirement goals? Do they have kids? Do the kids want to go to college? How many kids do they have? All of those things go into who that person is. Because guess what? They're a person outside of being your employee. It's not just employee number 679. They have a life, they have wives, they have family. They are people. So treat them like it. They are not just that person on the production line or in that line at the waitress, the whomever it is. There's so much more to what they do. Empathy. Empathy is really about putting yourself in the shoes of other people and understanding what they're going through. So you've built the relationship with them, you're being authentic with them. Now it's time to put yourself in their shoes, okay? And really understand where they're coming from when they say that, their kids are sick, or somebody is sick and they've got a possible cancer diagnosis, and every night after work, when they get done, they're running to the clinic in Marshfield for treatments, and they're running and they're doing all this stuff, and now they're running on 4 hours of sleep as opposed to 8 hours of sleep. So if you're wondering why production is down or why they haven't been their same bubbly self, that's why. Okay, those are real things. Being able to understand. Now, does that mean that it's an excuse that they should be allowed to, have less productivity or be less productive, be less happy when they're with customers? No. But at least you know what is going on in their life. What is it that's causing them to behave that way? And how can you help them in that situation? It's not just the job of HR. It's not something where you just go to HR and be like, oh, well, that's an HR thing. Yeah, no. Not at all. That's a people thing. And that comes from every single person in the building. Whether you're a coworker at the same level, whether you're a department manager in somebody else's department, pay attention to those things, because that really does make a difference and help somebody feel like they're valued. So once you've incorporated the care values and you've put all this stuff together, right? How do you implement this, right? Like, how do you get this started in your organization? Because care is one thing, but getting it actually rolling is a whole other ball of wax, right? And how many of you would agree that management and culture comes from the top down? How many would you agree? Yeah, very true, right? You can create something in your own department. You can create something that is, a local, if you're a manager, if you're a regional manager, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be supported by the leadership at the top, okay? So if you don't have the ability to make those changes at the top, and you don't have the authority to make major culture shifts, these are some things that you can do on a local level. When I say local, I mean within your department, right? Or within your group and within what you're doing, to be able to make some of these changes happen, okay? The first one is use employer branding, okay? So when you're starting to brand your company, when you're trying to market for employees, you want to go off of the momentum that your company has already built with their brand, all right? So you don't want to try and create something that's completely different. If your company is already on a roll with what they're doing for their branding, you want to be able to ride that wave a little bit. They've already created a name for themselves. They've already done this stuff. Don't try to recreate the wheel. Ride that wave that they've already started so that you can get that momentum and continue on that trail of where they're going. I think of, Meryl Steele, for example. Meryl Steele has had commercials about what they do, who they are. They've built a lot of that from scratch, and they've built a name for themselves, Meryl Steele. They've also built and used the same similar commercials and the similar style to do their recruiting commercials and recruiting on their website. If you go to their website, looks the same as what their TV commercials do. It's all very consistent. It's all part of the same package, right? So you want to create that brand or follow that brand and make sure that you're consistent with what that brand is. 2, use internal communication campaigns. You want to use a variety of channels, okay? That means text marketing, email, print. You can't just stick a sign up in the lunchroom and expect that all of your production employees are going to see this and that you're going to have everybody show up for the company picnic. Sorry. Most people don't read those when they're in there, and it needs to be communicated in multiple ways, right? So you have to find a way that's going to make sense for that particular employee. The way that you find out How do you guys think you could find out? Would be a great way to find out what way they like to get messages.
Ask them.
Yeah. Communication, ask them. So simple. Keep people informed, engaged, and motivated. When they know what's going on with the company, they have less stress, they have less anxiety. When they know that the company's not in trouble, if things seem like they're off, they might be. They might be. People have intuition about that. So you have to let them know where you're at. Don't hide things like that. Keep them informed, keep them engaged, and that way when somebody says, hi, how do you like working there? They can say, oh, well, we're actually growing, and this is where our company is headed, and we're building a new building, and they can tell you all the exciting things that are happening with the company. Yeah, I know that the production level worker maybe doesn't need to know that, but they do need to know that. They actually do. Recognition and rewards programs. Have a way to reward and recognize your employees. Celebrate achievements. Tara, can I get some more water? Celebrate achievements for both the employee and the company. Do this through meetings, regular communication meetings. You can do this one-on-one. Public recognition is the best because it's going to be trying to think of the word. I was going to say more recognized, but public recognition is more recognized. No. But it's easier when people see it. When it's right in front of their face and they see it, it's easier for others to know. And that feeling starts to grow. And somebody might be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. They got recognized for that. Well, maybe I should work harder. Maybe I should try doing that. That feeling can spread. And especially in front of new employees. When new team members see that recognition and they get motivated by that, do you think that they're more likely to quit? Or are they more likely to stick around? If it's an environment that they want to be in, they're more likely to stick around. Make them want to be there. Employee advocacy programs. So, having an employee advocacy program to advocate on the employee's behalf is very important because not everything is cohesive from the top down. I've seen many times where people in leadership roles who are making decisions for the company have absolutely no idea what happens on the production floor. There's a huge breakdown in communication with knowing what's going on here and knowing what's going on there. And what they think is happening is definitely not what's happening. And what these guys think is happening up here isn't what's happening. And it's this huge battle, right? If you have an employee advocacy program where everybody gets in a room and everybody talks together and you all communicate, it's much better. Okay? Advocating for employees who maybe you have a workforce who is a large non-English speaking workforce, right? How do you communicate with them? What groups do you have that are advocating for their rights and their needs as an employee? If you don't have an official way of doing that, you've got a gap in your program. Just because someone works like a workhorse doesn't mean that they enjoy what they're doing, doesn't mean that they're not going to walk out the door as soon as they're not happy. You have to make sure that they're happy. Working really hard is not a sign that somebody loves what they do. Okay? Just because somebody shows up every day doesn't mean that they're not going to be like, see ya, I'm out of here. If they don't feel like they're valued. Employee experience surveys. Now, this can be tricky, right? I've seen times where people have tried to implement employee survey programs and they were not taken seriously. You really have to have the buy-in of everyone. This is not something that you can just send down to HR and be like, hey, do this. It doesn't work that way. And if your bosses say, hey, do this, you say, you know what, that doesn't work that way. Because if the leadership isn't on board, if the leadership isn't the first ones filling out the surveys, if the managers of each department aren't filling out the surveys, the employees aren't going to take it seriously either. And if all of the things that they've said, if nobody listens to them, if there's not a two-way communication going on a regular basis, why would they think that you're going to listen now? So if you are doing an employee survey for the very first time, expect some pretty negative results. It could be really ugly and very limited results because people are bitter. They haven't been listened to so far. It takes a while for them to believe you and to build that relationship, build that trust with them in order to get them on board and be like, oh, okay, they really are planning on making real changes. And then once you've gotten those surveys, communicating that feedback in a meeting is extremely important. Good, bad, or otherwise, it needs to be communicated. If people didn't take it seriously, tell them, hey, you know what, we tried getting a survey. We really want to do better by you guys, but we got 6 responses out of 300 people. So that's not going to help us create a better environment for you. And it's certainly not going to help us create an environment that new people are going to want to stick around for a lot longer. So you have to be able to, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I saw Tara taking a picture back there. I'm like, it's gone. Communicate those results to people, because communicating the results, and not just, like I said, not just posting a flyer in the lunchroom thinking that, oh, yep, here's the results. No. Send it to every single employee. Send them an email. Send them a text message with a link to your website where they can find the full report. Get your employees on a text messaging app so that they can all get information about the company very quickly. All you have to do is put a link and a page on the site. It could be a hidden page. Nobody even has to know it's there except the employees. It's a fabulous way to communicate with people. Your employees can find the information anytime that they need it, and it's not visible to the public. Professional development opportunities. Another way to help care for your team is by supporting their growth. What do you have for development and opportunities in your company? If you don't have an outlined format that says, hey, when you come in as an employee in this department, this is what you can expect for growth. Within 90 days, you should get this promotion, you should get this raise. We do an evaluation at 6 months. At 1 year, you're eligible to, apply to other departments that have, higher, more responsibilities. At 2 years, you can qualify for this. If you don't have that written down and in a formalized fashion, it makes it very difficult and wishy-washy, right? Nobody likes wishy-washy, because they know authentically that if a manager leaves, oh, guess what? So is a promotion that the guy's been talking about for a while. And my apologies on using male references. I just noticed I was doing that. But you have to be able to tell people what they can expect, and it has to be official. It has to be a formalized thing. And then it has to be communicated. So part of your part of your new hire onboarding, so that they know what to expect. And honestly, if you don't follow through on it and someone gets upset, that's your fault. If someone quits because they're like, well, you said I was going to get a 90-day review and it's now 120 days and I haven't had anybody sit me down for a review, that's your bad. You deserve to lose that employee. Stick with what you say you're going to do. even if it's more time, because in the long run, keeping that employee is way cheaper than trying to hire another one. Because you've already spent all that time and energy and resources in training them just to lose them at 4 months. It's like, defeating, right? You feel defeated. But if you can have just that little win where you can keep just 1% more of your employees on board and happy, it's a start. It's a place to start. Highlight what that career path looks like for them. Do they know what that career path is? Do you pay for schooling? Do you pay for advancement opportunities? Do you offer partial payment for those opportunities? I know a lot of CNC machining companies will do some kind of pay, but a lot of times the classes for the CNC machining conflict with the times that the employer actually needs them to work. So sometimes that can be hard. So you have to get creative. There's nothing wrong with getting creative. Wellness and work-life balance initiatives. As I said earlier, 87% of employees are looking for a healthy work-life balance. They want support, physical, emotional, and mental health. Now, does that mean that you need a gym membership to everybody? No. Doesn't mean that you need to be like, oh, how can I help you? And be like all, sympathetic and cry with them. No, I mean, you still have a job to do. It's still a work environment. You still have goals and objectives that you need to reach. But in the moment, it's okay to take a moment to just be kind to somebody and ask them how they're doing, or ask them what's going on in their life. And so if they don't, have an official program like an employee assistance program that they can sign up for, that they can get the help that they need. Because none of you, I don't think, are any licensed counselors in this office or in this room, right? Right. So none of us are really qualified to be able to help somebody with serious issues, but you can certainly guide them to a resource where they can get some help. And that's sometimes all it takes. Get creative with the types of ways that you support physical and mental health. And what I mean by that is, I have a friend who worked at a company in Green Bay, and they offered a bonus every year, and it was a smaller company, no doubt, but they offered a bonus every year for employees, $100 bonus, to go do whatever you want with your family. The only requirement was that they had to take a picture of themselves with their family and post it on that company's social media page. Family Day, $100. There you go. Here's $100. Go have fun with your family. Take them to Summerfest. And I think that's what he did, is he had taken his family to Summerfest. Get creative. It doesn't have to be crazy stuff that you do. But think out of the box a little bit. And provide resources for them. So, like I said before, if you don't have a therapist on staff, what are some resources in the community that they can use? Employee assistance program, have something official on your books, especially if you're a bigger company, so that they can get help when they need it, and get it privately without having to alert everybody that they're going through a crisis. And the 8th one is continuous improvement in feedback loops. Not every program that you institute is going to be a home run. Some are going to be downright failures. Nobody's gotten bored with it. Doesn't mean that you don't keep trying. Doesn't mean that you just stop. It means that you find other ways. Trying it once and then never trying it again doesn't mean that you should just quit. And that's oftentimes what I see executive teams observe and do. Oh, HR tried that, it didn't work. We're not ever doing an employee survey again. No. You keep trying something until you find what works. getting that feedback on a regular basis is extremely important. Being able to leverage that feedback with leadership and say, hey, this is the feedback we're getting from people who've worked with us for less than 90 days. This is not a good experience. We need to fix this problem. Use that information and make sure that the people who need to know at the top, the ones who can sign the paychecks or not, have the information, have all the information, not just their perceived information. And then adjust the strategies to address evolving employee needs. You know, when things change with them. What people want today is not what people wanted 5 years ago. And things are changing faster and faster. So make sure that you're changing with them. So a couple of final tips and takeaways. By leveraging the market strategies, you can build tactics, or leveraging the marketing strategies and tactics, you build employee experiences. So all of these things go into employee experiences, right? And that's what this is about. Employee experience to employee retention. Creating those experiences for them when they're first applying, okay? How easy are you making it for them to apply to the job? Are you clear and concise on what the job expectations are? All play into that experience that they have, whether it's a good one or a really negative one. It all depends. But all of these pieces of the puzzle are all about creating that experience, right? So, using care can help build a culture that attracts people, retains people, and motivates people. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be complicated. And that can, increase your organizational success. When you decrease the amount of people that you turn over, you increase your profits exponentially. So with that, does anybody have any questions, feedback, or comments? Nobody has anything? Wow, I must have done a really good job. All right, so the next screen is just a way for me to get feedback on my presentation. So if anybody would be willing to just simply give me some feedback, scan the QR code. It'll ask you for a code, just type in marketing, and give me some feedback on my presentation today. I would really appreciate that. Helps me to make sure that I'm creating presentations that are valuable and that are of use to everyone here. So yeah, that's in your booklet. You can take it home and you can do it now or you can do it later. It's up to you, whatever you would like to do. And then on the final screen is my contact information, which is white, and my apologies for not being able to see that a little bit better. But if anybody would like to contact me for consulting reasons, or if anybody would like to discuss anything that's going on in their company, I do offer a 1-hour free consultation to just kind of go over what your needs are and what you're experiencing, and put together a plan that would be specific to your organization. So feel free to reach out to me either by email or by phone. And my website is taraparks.com. Yeah, thank you.
I will also send a follow-up email with the PowerPoint and
Okay.
Tara's contact information, so if anybody wants to contact her individually.
Awesome.
Tara.
You're very welcome.
Thank you all for coming. We do have a community connection reference next for 23rd, so next, thank you. That's at the